part 2 of Ancient Lands, Ancient Foods, making yogurt at home. In this video, you will learn how easy it is to make this ancient food at home. There are many benefits to making yogurt at home. You'll save money and you'll have a delicious yogurt without fillers and added sugars. You'll be able to control what you add to this food, or you can enjoy it plain. Remember, it does make an excellent substitute for sour cream. Let's get started. There are lots of ways to make yogurt, and I have tried many of them. Some of them were successful, some of them were not so successful. The way I'm going to show you today has been successful for me each and every time I've made yogurt. So let's first look at all the equipment you're going to need to make a successful batch of yogurt. Let's start with what we're going to heat our milk in. I use a small crock pot. You can use one between 2 and 4 quarts. It needs to hold at least 4 cups of milk. The smaller the crock pot, the better, because it holds the milk in a position that the milk doesn't get too hot. You want to hold it at a steady temperature, but it can't be too hot and it can't be too cold. I use my crock pot set to high, and it works great. You're also going to need a measuring container. You're going to have to measure 4 cups of milk into this container. I use one that is larger. This one actually holds 2 quarts of milk, because later on in this video you're going to see how when I mix the milk I'm actually whisking and mixing right in this container. You're going to need a whisk. You're going to need a ladle. And then you're going to need your containers that you're going to create your yogurt in. I have a small one that I use to put aside some of the yogurt to create my next starter, and we'll talk about that later. And then I have the actual container that I use to make my large volume of yogurt. They need to be very clean. Some people will actually pour boiling water into them to scald them. I put them into the dishwasher and run it at a high temperature, and I've never had a problem. And then you need your milk, and you need a yogurt starter. Now you can buy commercial starters in most health food stores, but to start the process you can buy a small container of plain yogurt. Look for one with no fillers, and you only need a 1/4 cup of it. After you have your first batch of yogurt, you can make your own starter, which is really good for the next several batches. If you see your yogurt getting too thin, just start all over again with a new plain carton of yogurt from the market. Now the milk you use, it's up to you. I use raw milk. Most people will use pasteurized milk, which is fine, and you can use any percentage of milk fat. I prefer whole milk because it's richer and thicker, and the end product just seems creamier and tastes better. The only milk I haven't had success in using is, unfortunately, organic milk, because most organic milk is ultra pasteurized, and that means it is pasteurized at a higher temperature, which unfortunately kills off the necessary bacteria needed to create yogurt. It just doesn't culture correctly. It's too thin, and it was really one of my poor batches of yogurt. So I've learned, and again, my favorite's raw, but you can use pasteurized. The last items you're going to need is a heating pad, and mine is old, but it works great. If you use a new heating pad, that's fine, but you have to make sure you don't have one that goes off automatically after an hour or 2, because it does need to stay plugged in for the whole time that the yogurt is culturing, and that is typically between 8 and 10 hours. I do mine for 8, but you can actually culture it for a few more hours if you want to. You also need a pizza stone, and again, mine is old, but it works great. But the pizza stone helps diffuse the heat evenly under the yogurt while it is culturing. And the last thing you're going to need is a beach towel. And any big towel will do, but this is going to be wrapped around the heating pad, the pizza stone, and the yogurt, because it helps create a perfect heating environment. Well, that's all the equipment that you need to begin, so gather what you need, and the next part will show you how to start. know everything you need to create your yogurt, we're going to begin making it. We start simply. Measure your milk into the container. You need exactly 4 cups. I'm going to pour it into the crock pot. Put on the lid. Set it to high. And then you're going to set your timer for 2 hours. And walk away. After 2 hours, the next step is quite easy. Turn the crock pot off. Remove the lid. Lift the crock out. Now it's time to set up the heating pad and the pizza stone, because I kind of preheat that over the next hour so it's at the right temperature when we start to culture the yogurt. So I'm going to, first what I do is open the beach towel. Then I spread out the heating pad right onto the beach towel. Make sure it's plugged in. I set the thermostat to medium. Put the pizza stone right on top of the heating pad. I put 1 layer of the towel on top of the heating pad. You also have to remove the yogurt starter that you're going to be using from the refrigerator, because you want it at room temperature, which takes about an hour, so it works out perfectly. And then I set my next timer for my cooling time to 1 hour. Push start, and I'll see you back here in 1 hour. Our cooling time, we're ready to put together our milk with the yogurt starter. So I do that by taking my ladle, and I usually ladle about 2 ladles full into our measuring cup. And then I take my yogurt starter and spoon it in. Then we need our whisk, and we whisk it together till it's well mixed. And then I finish pouring in the rest of the cooled milk. I finish whisking it together. And then we pour it into our clean containers. I usually start with my next yogurt starter. Pour the rest into my dish. Put the lids on both tightly. This one snaps on. Then I set them on my preheated pizza stone, which is covered with a towel. And then I take the top layer of the towel, make sure they're well covered. And the next is to wait for 8 hours. You can actually wait for 10 hours, but I usually put them into the fridge after 8. So I'll see you again in 8 hours. Welcome back, everyone. Well, it's been 8 hours, and our milk should now be yogurt. When you take the towel off, don't be tempted to lift the lids, because before you open them, they need to sit in the fridge for about 8 hours. But you can see that our liquid has now turned into a semi-solid substance, yogurt. So I'm going to put both of these into the fridge. And we'll be back in 8 hours to look at our final product. Well everyone, it's been another 8 hours. Let's take the yogurt out of the refrigerator and take a peek at foods from the ancient lands. I'm going to leave the yogurt starter in the refrigerator, but let's look at what we've created. As you can see, we have a beautiful, rich, thick yogurt. I hope you have good luck creating your own yogurt at home, and look for future editions of Ancient Lands, Ancient Foods. And this is it for this video series, and thank you for joining us. Bye for now.